Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Antoine. And thank you to everyone who joined us today for Healthy Living Series with Nurse Alice. I'm always excited to talk with people because my mantra is I like to talk to people before they become my patients. And so today we're going to be talking about shots, shingles, and staying well, what adults need to know about vaccines. Now, I know this may not always be the most popular topic, but still, nevertheless, one that's very important because as we get older, staying healthy becomes less about reacting to illness after it happens and more about preventing things. So that can take us out of our normal routine, land us in the hospital, or affect our independence. So those are things that we definitely want to protect. And so today we're going to talk about five different vaccines in particular: flu, COVID, shingles, pneumococcal, and RSV. Now, there's lots of uh, vaccines that are out there. These five, I'll explain to you why these were selected, especially kind of given this time of year. But again, our focus is on prevention and staying well. So these are some of the things that just come with that territory. Again, disclaimer, I will share my expertise, my passion, empower you as it relates to health and wellness. I am a board certified nurse practitioner licensed in 5 states, of course, one in my home state, California being one of them. But my role here today is more as an educator for information only. And so the information that we've discussed today, please, use it as a catalyst to have more in-depth conversations with your healthcare provider. Again, I'm Alice Benjamin, family nurse practitioner, and I was talking to my son, and I've actually been doing this for almost 30 years now. I was born a provider here, but family nurse practitioner. I work all aspects from family medicine to critical care to emergency, and again, my I like to talk to people before they become my patient because I've seen the aftermath, the trauma, the devastation that can happen. And now in this kind of latter part of my year, myself included, because this is information I need for myself too, is how can we stay well? How can I protect my health? So I've been able to do a couple of things through media. I have a podcast and just a longtime ambassador and friend with AARP. So quick question. Are you up to date? So, if you don't mind in the chat box, if you can put your answer to this very particular question, when was the last time you reviewed all of your vaccines? So, A, within the past year, B, a few years ago, C, I honestly don't remember, or D, I get my flu shot. Does that count? Okay. Got a couple A's in there. Okay. I must have, all right. We have all of the A students in here. Okay, very good. And if you haven't, that's okay. That's the purpose of this presentation to kind of resurface this topic because hey, there's lots of things going on in the world. Every once in a while, something's going to escape us, and so this is your gentle reminder. We're going to discuss some of these vaccines. Now, I think one of the things that's important for us to remind ourselves is that vaccines are not just for kids. As a parent myself, here I am always before we go to every appointment. Where's your yellow immunization card? Where's your immunization card? And still even being confused when I got to the doctor's office to talk about my kids' vaccinations and mine as well. And I just kind of assumed like, I'm an adult. I don't need them. I had all my kids' shots. I don't know if anybody can resonate with that, but I literally, as an adult, I was like, I got all my kids' shots. But vaccination remains a very important part of prevention throughout adulthood and our entire lifespan, actually. And there's quite a few reasons why this needs to be a part of that. It's because the immune system that you have and at your particular age now is not, excuse me, the immune system you had when you were younger is not the immune system that you have now. And that's because infections can hit us differently as we age. And part of that is because life is life. Are generally as we age, we are under have a lot other things. Our immune system is changing. It's perhaps making it a little more difficult to fight off infections. And because of that, and other things like stress and managing maybe our diabetes or our blood pressure, other things come into play, which can make the illnesses that we had when we were 30 a little more serious when we get older. And then these chronic conditions raise the stakes. So it's kind of like a little bit of a science experiment. You put enough chemicals into that petri dish, something, things change. They get a little different. And then maybe we were exposed to something in our younger years, but as we know and we've learned, and many of us have learned through with the pandemic, that our immunity to certain things can fade over time. So again, vaccinations are something that's are part of our lifespan when it comes to prevention, and also decreasing the severity of how things were. So you might have got the flu when you were in your 20s and you bounced back, wasn't a thing. You might have worked through it, not an issue. Get it now when you're a little bit older, you're laid out. Don't talk to me, don't do anything for like 2 weeks. I'm out for the count. So things change. So this is why vaccines are important. Now let's talk about this immune system. What changes over time? Well, our immune system, the biology changes because, and when you understand this part, it'll make you understand the rationale for why these vaccines are important. And just by show of hands, so I just kind of read the room. How many and safe space? How many people are a little skeptical about vaccines? Like, oh, I had this illness, I don't need it, I'm fine, I got immunity. Maybe not an issue. Is that anyone in the room? I know we had a lot of people who seem on top of it, but because I was gonna say that's actually kind of a common theme that I hear from people when it comes to vaccines. I'm fine, but not necessarily recognizing that as we age, our immune system does change. And on this slide, I know it looks like a lot of information, but it actually kind of breaks down what changes in our immune system, which is why this is important. So, our immune system has several different players in it. It's like a basketball team. Everyone kind of has their role and their job to do. And then as we age, if someone's not holding up the defensive line, or if they're not where they're supposed to be or protecting the person they're supposed to protect on the opposing team, that's when we get into trouble. So we are, let's see, so like our thymus shrinkage. So that's something that plays a very important role in our immune system. And if that shrinks, it has difficulty producing the T cells and creating our immune defenses. Our immune system just kind of slows down. I don't know about you, but it takes me a little longer to get out of bed to get into the kitchen. Is it I don't know. These hips and knees just said, give me a minute. And so kind of the same thing with our immune system. Our immune system's like, give me a minute. I'm coming, but give me a minute. Weakened immune memory. So yes, I got and this might have happened to some of you. I got COVID during the pandemic, and maybe the first one is probably the most severe of them all because it was new to your body. But maybe the next time you were exposed to it, maybe yeah, you still got sick, but it wasn't as bad, right? But and that's in a kind of a close proximity. But if you take an illness that you had a year or more or so ago, and now you get introduced to it, the immune memory still might be weakened. We also have some chronic low-grade inflammation that happens in our immune system, and that inflammation, you're like, well, where does that come from, Alice? Well, it comes from some of our chronic medical conditions and sometimes our lifestyle. So if I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm operating on little sleep, or I'm under a lot of stress, like chronic stress, whether it's work, family type of stress. And then sometimes when I'm managing different medical conditions, like, gosh, my blood pressure is not really being well controlled, or, my blood sugar, it's mostly controlled, but it's a little up and down every once in a while. Those things can all micro contribute inflammation, which can collectively impact our immune system. And as our aging B cells, they produce a lower quality of antibodies to fight off the infection. So yeah, I get exposed to something, and I get sick, and then I get some, my system responds, and it had some soldiers there, but maybe the shoulders just aren't as strong as what they were when I was in my younger years. So this is a common age-related finding. This happens to everyone. We're not going to escape this. So part of the life cycle here. Now, I already mentioned some of these things already, but chronic conditions. So, when it comes to immunizations, they're age related. So, like when you're this age, you should get this. When you're this age, you should get that vaccine. But sometimes there are some exceptions to the rule. And maybe when they refer to, or if you're at higher risk for these certain conditions, that you should get vaccines earlier. And that's just because some of our underlying health conditions can influence our immune system, which I mentioned on the slide before. And so these are some of the chronic conditions that can influence our immune system. And these are some of the most common conditions that are out there: diabetes, heart disease, people with asthma, COPD, um, being having extra weight on us. So obesity can cause that. And that actually contributes to some of the inflammation as well. When we're not active and moving, we're more sedentary. So that can contribute to poor circulation. Just our immune system isn't just as robust. And then some people may have a weakened immune system from conditions like HIV, active cancer, or other blood disorders. And then on top of that, there are certain medications. Now, by all means, if you're on any of these medications, that does not mean stop these medications. Some things to consider. Some medications like steroids or chemotherapy or other transplant drugs, we need the if you're taking those medications and need them for a condition, yes, you need to have them, but just know in the back of your mind that those very things that are helping me in one area may be overall weakening my immune system. So I got to be a little more diligent. I got to be a little more protective of my body and what's going on. And so again, I picked we have five vaccines that I'm going to be going over. And one of the things is, when's the best time to get them? And so we're entering into the fall and winter months. Weather, although it doesn't feel like it here in California, it's gonna get colder somewhere, right? It's gonna get colder. And so generally when the weather's colder or like there's rain or things that push people indoors, we're in closer proximity to each other. So illness is able to spread very quickly. So don't wait to prepare for what inevitably always happens. We look at the trends, we look at the patterns, always see winter, fall and winter months, we start to see an inclination of certain conditions. And that's because everybody's indoors. And some of that also is the seasonal splurge, right? Families and folks are getting together to celebrate around certain holidays and celebration, things like that. So, because of these things, and also weather patterns play a role in this, but there's a seasonal surge. So, respiratory illnesses are and high circulate more highly during these colder times, and also viruses do better when it's cold when it's an environment that helps them to thrive and live longer and be more virulent. Um, Also, another reason why you don't necessarily want to wait too late to get the certain vaccines is generally the body needs about 2 weeks on average to build up the antibodies. So if you get a vaccine, let's say you get your flu shot, and let's say, oh, I'm going to the holiday party. It's going to be lots of people. We know that not everyone, some of those folks may have some respiratory illnesses. We don't know. They're coming from near and far, and I don't know. But I want to protect myself. I'm not going to do it the day before going out to that event or series of events that I'll be going to. I want to do it at least 2 weeks in advance because I'm going to get the shot, and then my immune system needs times to respond. It's going to need to identify. Okay, I got the vaccine. Okay, now I have some work to do. So we need to allow some time for your immune system to really develop those antibodies to the best of their ability, 2 weeks ahead of time. You also want to get, your vaccines, especially as we're entering into the season. You want to get it to shield yourself and protect well, they're valuable, vulnerable people around us. So, for example, if you're a grandparent and there's a new grandbaby in the family, yes, grandma, grandpa wants to love on the baby, but we need to protect baby too because we know baby is still vulnerable to illnesses. Their immune system hasn't fully developed. So the way you protect baby is by protecting yourself also. And then you want to avoid the rush because we're entering into flu season. People wait, they wait, they wait. Then there's a mad rush. And then you can't get an appointment for your vaccine. And then you're like, upset that you can't get your vaccine. And now everybody's starting to develop flu. And if you wait long enough, you might actually get exposed to the flu and it might be more severe than had you planned ahead, get my vaccine, and then allow for the antibodies to build up because maybe I got these medical conditions going on. And so my body needs a little extra time to develop these antibodies. So these are some reasons why you should not wait to the very last minute to get your vaccines, especially as we enter into this winter season. And I'm going to explain to you what these are now. So, oh, well, shortly I will. So we talked about how to prepare for the winter season. Now, what does the vaccine actually do? Well, the vaccine gives us kind of a preview, gives the immune system a preview of what to expect and how to get ready. It's kind of like a movie trailer for what's coming. when you're watching the movies and you kind of say, "Oh, well, that's a good movie. I want to see that. When does that come out?" You kind of plan ahead, right? You get ready for it. So, um, vaccine is just that. It's a prelude to your immune system. So it helps it to recognize what a potential threat is. So if when you get the vaccine, the body's exposed to an example of what the potential threat may be. So the immune system knows how to recognize, oh, I see you, I don't like you. Let me get these antibodies together so we can get you evicted from the house, if you will, and kind of a, if I were to say that an example. Um, it gives you time to build up the antibodies, the memory cells, because you'll need some cells to help kind of fight off the intruder if it presents itself, and then also some memory cells, like remember what they look like, because if you see this character around again, we need to respond quickly. So you'll need some time for that. And so if there's a subsequent, once you get the vaccine, once your body's learned those things and everyone's in place, then if the real deal comes to you, like let's say you get the flu shot, and then you are in a place where you do get exposed to the flu, your body's able to respond more robustly and more quickly had it not had the vaccine. So these are some things that can help to prevent um, infection, also to help minimize the severity of the infection and prevent hopefully hospitalizations from these things, because largely many of these things can be um, prevented. Now, some most of the time, and I'm gonna keep it 100% most of the time, because there are some times where you'll get a vaccine, you'll say, Alice, it didn't work because I still got the flu, but maybe it wasn't as severe as what it would have been had you not gotten the flu vaccine at all. And I think that's one of the most important pieces that we need to remember when it comes time to vaccine. Okay. Now, so these are the five vaccines that we're going to cover today. And these were selected based on the time of year, things that are going on in our environment, that, what did I say? These are, if the top five that I would be concerned about and want to make sure that myself, my family, my friends, my loved ones are covered, and you guys are kind of extended loved ones, my ARP family. So five vaccines here. So the flu vaccine, that's one that's generally administered every year. We have the COVID-19 vaccines. Now, this one, it's the recommendations can be very confusing, given we have federal CDC guidelines, kind of the set it's out, kind of general, but then depending on where you live, and it looks like most everyone's on here is in California. So we also have the California Public Health Department, because states are then empowered based on what's circulating and going on within their state and what they see, to add to those recommendations. So I'll just kind of spoiler alert: California has is a little more proactive with our COVID vaccine recommendations compared to the federals. Also, the shingles vaccine. This is one that is recommended starting at age 50. A little bit younger if you're if immunocompromised or with some other conditions that can weaken your immune system. Um, Pneumococcal vaccine, again, kind of it starts at age 50 for general across the board, but even younger if you're at increased risk. So maybe you have certain chronic medical conditions or immunocompromise. And each of these will go into a little bit more detail. And then the RSV, which is a respiratory illness, generally at age 75, but 50 to 74 if at increased risk, or if your state recommends it sooner, which California does. And then also during these weeks of pregnancy. If you fall out of these ages, pregnancy is a consideration for that. But we're going to go over each of these um, in more detail. But why these vaccines? Well, I will say most of these are impacted by respiratory. So flu, COVID, pneumococcal, and RSV. The respiratory illnesses are going to be circulating in high prevalence during colder times of the years. The reason shingles was added in there is because shingles is oftentimes cold weather, these respiratory illnesses. Those can also put you at an increased risk for a flare up. So this time of the year, we actually see more shingles outbreaks during other times of the year. So while shingles itself is something that we want to address this time of year as well. Okay, so the flu. Has anyone on here had the flu recently? Just kind of curious. Anyone? Some people refer to the flu as, oh, I just have flu, or say flu-like symptoms. Well, the flu is actually a little more severe than a bad cold. Just so you all know. Um, that's actually one of the largest misconceptions. And so for older adults, especially those who have heart disease, diabetes, or lung disease, influenza can be a significant medical event, and it can actually lead to pneumonia. It can exacerbate underlying health conditions, and it can actually lead to hospitalizations and in sometimes death. So this is something that's very important. It's annual. It's an annual vaccine. Flu. It's recommended every year. Adults 65 plus. Oh, and so it's recommended every year. So this is one of the vaccines that's kind of recommended along the lifespan. Even younger kids are uh, recommended to kind of get the flu shot and things like that. Now, Howard said he hasn't had the flu in several years. Now, that's good. So here's one of the things. We're talking about vaccines, but I'm going to say this: vaccine is only part of the puzzle. It's very important that we keep ourselves optimally healthy as much as possible. Eating well, getting good sleep, staying hydrated, managing our medical conditions. All of those things um, are important when it comes to the flu shot. Um, And so, one of the things that I also want to mention is there's also some other ways to get. You've probably heard, oh, there's a nasal spray, and there's other different types of vaccines for the flu. So I will say this: there are actually very specific flu vaccines for those who are 65 and older. I'm going to go into the next slide, but we're going to talk about um, what are the vaccines more recommended for uh, people who are 65 and older, and then what to do if those vaccines aren't available. But again, the best time to get vaccine as we enter flu season. So flu season is kind of like November to February. So here's the catch. Because we know that the immunity to these will wane. That's right. That's why it's every year. It's important that we get vaccinated in time, but not too early because we want those antibodies to be protecting us during peak season. So the best time to get your flu vaccine would be ideally I would just say the month of October is probably the best time to get it. I wouldn't necessarily do it in September. Um, especially based on California, what we're seeing as far as prevalence. That way, if you get it, I would say if you get it by the top of October, that should be great because it'll provide optimal protection throughout the actual flu season. And remember, it takes about 2 weeks to build up our those antibodies. And so, oh, where'd it go? Okay. Um, Now, before I get into those exact vaccines, just a real quick preview about the flu and what it does to your body. So obviously, it's a respiratory illness. It's through droplets. It enters usually through your nose, throat, and lungs. So this is a time of year where good hand washing, um, coughing and sneezing hygiene. So if you're going to cough or sneeze, you do it into your elbow, not into your hands, because then the germs get onto our hands. And then what happens is we get exposed to it. Our immune overreacts and it can cause the kind of flu-like symptoms, the fever, chills, body aches, and fatigue. Sometimes it can feel like a bus hit you, just achy and just tired. And I've had the flu, so I know it doesn't feel well. But what we're concerned about is that when this can turn into cause lung damage, it can cause some changes to the lungs, that's the part that we get most concerned about. And then whenever the lungs are kind of overwhelmed, it can cause the heart to also get a little bit strained as well, and that can increase short term increase your risk for heart attack and strokes during the time that you have the flu. And it causes systemic inflammation and stress throughout the body. And so we want to try to prevent and or blunt or mute this as much as possible with the vaccine because our goal is, even if you do end up getting a mild case um, of influenza, that hopefully it does not result in where you're sick enough where you need to go in the hospital and need oxygen, or that we can prevent death. So this is something um, that we want to try to prevent as much as possible. So it's not just the coughing, sneezing, it's the symptoms. We don't like it, but it's more than that. It's the other things that are happening to the lungs and to the heart, the inflammation that it's causing everywhere else. Some people have more difficult times managing their blood sugars and blood pressures during this time. So we want to mitigate all of those things. So here are the vaccines that I was referring to. So not all flu shots are the same. There are better age-related options. So for people who are above the age of 65, now I'll say this: there's a general flu shot. It's anyway, everyone can get it, right? Even if, let's say, you don't know about this, like, wow, so I never got this. I got the regular flu shot before, and that's fine. In in absence of these, getting the regular flu shot is fine. But if you have the opportunity to ask for this, and hopefully your provider has talked to you about it, there are flu vaccines that are designed for people who are 65 and older, and these are they give because our immune system operationally kind of declines over the years, right? Like I said, it's not as robust, it's not as quick, it doesn't get protect us as much when we're older as it did when we were younger, right? We're not as resilient in as far as immune system. So these vaccines are designed to help kind of give us a little boost, if you will, in some of that immunity. So they're built a little bit differently. So, like for example, the high dose flu zone, it has 4 times the antigen of a standard shot. So it built a stronger immune system, immune response. And so all of these actually are built to have um, uh, more of the antigen to help build a more robust immune system. So these are um, the flu vaccines that are designed for adults 65 and older. Avoid nasal spray. Nasal spray is only it's not approved for 65 and up. It's really designed for otherwise healthy people between the ages of 2 and 49. So if you are not of that age range, the flu, the nasal mist is not for you. Okay. Um, Also, we talked about kind of the best timing. So you'll want to wait a little bit later. I would say end of September, top of October is probably just fine for that. If these vaccines, high dose vaccines, are not available for you and you're 65 and older, then you know get get the regular flu vaccine. Something is better than nothing. Okay, that we do uh, uh, want you to know. And then for those of us who live in California, our California Public Health Department has been great about building into working with the insurance companies and all of those things to make sure that Californians have zero out of pocket under Medicare, Part B, Medi-Cal, and other state regulated commercial health plans. So other states, they may not have this luxury. Other states, if they go strictly based on the federal guidelines, they may be someone who is a candidate for it, but they may have to pay out of pocket. But here in California, we got some good people, but we're interested in our health and making sure that we can get it as cost free as possible. All right, so that's the flu vaccine. Now we're going to get to COVID. COVID, listen, COVID-19 has been a
Hey,
thorn in our
Nurse
side.
Alice.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to jump in because someone did have a question where it said, "Will you discuss
mRNA
mRNA flu
vaccines.
vaccines?"
So I wasn't going to go into so much detail of the design of that because mRNA is a technology that is used for vaccine development and creation. And that's actually what's been helpful at helping us to create our vaccines larger volumes at larger scale. Um, I wasn't going to go into so much detail because we had so many to go over, but I was just going to focus on just flu vaccines themselves. Is that okay? Can I answer that question a little bit later? Maybe we can.
When
Okay.
we get to the end, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Retired in our nurse gives this. I love that. I love that, Karen, that you get the flu shot every year. And listen, when you're working, the kids got all kinds of viral illnesses, and they just bounce back. They just got a little runny nose, and they keep going. But us, when we're we're gonna feel it a little bit more. So I'm glad to hear that. Now, COVID. COVID has been a thorn in our side for quite some time, and it just keeps mutating. It keeps mutating. And the interesting thing is, as it mutates, it gets a little faster. It gets a little stronger. Excuse me, it's gotten a little faster. The virulence of it, how lethal or deadly has been, has weakened a little bit over time. But to make up for that, what it does is it spreads faster. So illness is still spreading. Fortunately, it's not the initial strain that first came out. And then, quite honestly, we just didn't have any cell memory. our immune system hadn't been exposed to it. So some of what's been going on, whether it's through initial your exposure to COVID or the COVID vaccines, we've had some protection because our immune system has been able to identify the core of the intruder, but it keeps mutating. There are different strains of it. And just kind of spoiler alert, but the COVID vaccine that's coming out for the 2026 2027 season is for the newer strain, which I'll talk on the next slide. But if you've had a COVID vaccine in the past, the recommendation from the California Public Health Department, should you be in California, is that you do get the new COVID vaccine because it's of a different strain. But I think I go over that a little bit more in the next slide. But COVID, it can cause respiratory damages, lots of inflammation. And remember, when our lungs are inflamed, there's strain on the heart, there's systemic inflammation everywhere else in the body, makes it difficult to manage blood pressure, makes it difficult to manage blood sugar, and all of those things. So it's kind of like a perfect storm. And so we want to prevent all of those things. And so lots that can happen here. And adults, again, are just at higher risk for more severe symptoms. So do you need another shot? Now, you've probably seen in the news a lot of changes with different vaccines and things like that. But I will say this: older adults, we've seen the immune system wane, and so there are different recommendations based on the age of um, on your age. Also, if you have certain health conditions that place you at higher risk, that plays a role into it as well. And just so you know, as I kind of give that spoiler, what we may have received in the past may not be what we need for what's next. Okay, so those are some things that we want to consider. And then the guidelines are being updated regularly. So here at the bottom of the slide, you can see, looking ahead, our seasonal COVID strain is targets XFG variant. Now, I'm not expecting you to remember that. Just know that it's a new variant, but it's been changing over time. And so this is a strain that isn't generally protected from um, our prior vaccines. So that's why there is some recommendation to have the new vaccine. But I'll go over it here. So here are the updated vaccines. So the new formula is going to be a better match for what's currently in circulation. That's what we want, right? We want stronger protection against severe illness for what's actually circulating. In California, these COVID vaccines are at zero cost for Californians under those previous medical plans that I mentioned. So you can access it at your provider, clinic, and local pharmacy. Here in California, the recommendations are for all Californians 6 months and up who choose to get vaccinated. Strongly recommended for those who are 65 and older with those risk factors or in close contact with those who are at risk. Like if you're grandma and you're going to be around the newborn, even grandma, if you feel healthy and fine, if you're going to be around a newborn, let's protect the newborn. So in California, our recommendations are they want everyone to be able to be protected. Federal guidelines, not so much so, but they default to more of high risk groups. Okay, so just so you know, you might say, well, Natals, I've heard something different. Federal guidelines dictated by the CDC, but here in California, we have the California Department of Public Health who have made these statements. It's on their website that anyone 6 months and up can get the COVID vaccine. Now, I'll just show you a map. This is currently, as of August 18th, we can see COVID is growing. COVID is growing. I mean, oh, it's not estimated. Georgia does its own thing sometimes. But anyways, you can see across the nation, COVID cases are increasing. Now, I know some say, "Oh, you're exaggerating. We're not having the number of deaths that we had before." Well, good. We don't want to. So, fortunately, the number of deaths have come down. It doesn't mean that it's completely gone away, though. We do have some people, especially older, with medical conditions, immune system's not what it used to be when they were younger. Those are the people who are more prone to deaths. We want to prevent that. And if anything, we also want to prevent severity of illness. So that's the COVID vaccine. Now we're going to get to shingles. Are you guys familiar with shingles are? Anyone? I just want to make sure that chicken pox, it's akin to chicken pox. So if you've ever had chicken pox, the virus that caused chicken pox is the same virus that can cause shingles. So, and this is a virus that can stay in your bodies for decades. It goes dormant. But then when your immune system weakens, yeah, Gene, it is. My mom had it too. Your when it senses a weakened immune system, shingles can reactivate. So that dormant chicken pox, you get chicken pox, goes dormant. You're living your life, but we're getting older. Immune system's getting a little bit weaker. You get sick. You're vulnerable. You have the flu. Your immune system is down, and then that's when the chicken pox vaccine is like, ha, send out shingles. Like we're going for the kill, right? That's kind of what shingles does, and so that's why shingles is more prevalent during the winter months when people have these respiratory illnesses and the immune system is down. So, 1 in 3 people will develop shingles in their lifetime. Your risk increases with age, and it is very painful, very painful. And so, when Jean put in the chat box, she said it's horrible. It is. I have known people who've had it. They describe it as a neuropathic pain that is painful. So just imagine when your foot falls asleep and then you kind of move and it gets tingly and it's so tingly you stop. You're like, ouch. It's that kind of sensation. So I have a picture of it. I'll show you what it looks like. But it's more than just actually let me go to the picture so you can see it first and we'll come back. See this? This is shingles. So and we can never predict where it's going to show up, how much it's going to be. What we do know is it's unilateral. If you've ever had these type of blisters and it's only been on one side, see how on the back it's on one side of the back. Here on the face, it's on one side of the face. It look it looks like it's uncomfortable, but the feeling of it, it's itchy, it's tingly, it's pain, it doesn't go away. Water touches it, you're jumping out your chair. Wind blows against it, you're jumping out your chair. Don't even think of taking a washcloth over this because you're gonna it's so the sensitivity of this is very painful. And so this is very largely preventable. So again, not even looking at what it looks like, but how it makes people feel. So if I go back, it falls kind of in the herpes family, but it's a severe, I'm gonna say severe with if I could yell all caps, severe nerve pain that exists long after the rash heals. So the rash will go away, but you'll still have this tingling sensation underneath your skin. And so this can increase as you get older under stressful events. A stressful event can cause this. So let's say we're getting older, our immune system's weaker. I might have a little bit of a respiratory flu or bug going around. I got the flu. And then, something really makes me upset at work and I got like all of these perfect storms. And then you can develop this rash and the shingles, literally. So it's hard to predict what's going to be the trigger, like if a stressful event's going to do it, but we do notice that we see these more after stressful events and when your immune system's weakened, which is more in the respiratory months. Sometimes you saw the picture of the rashes on the face, it can lead to vision loss. If that gets into the eye areas, it can cause damage, blindness, and those type of things. Strat says, how long does it last? It lasts a long time. So um, the rash itself, I've seen it can last anywhere from maybe like four, 4 to 8 weeks. And even after the rash is gone, the pain, um, I will say that most people will say that the pain has fairly subsided to something that is reasonable within 3 to 6 months. But it is a pain that some, very small amount, but some have reported never goes away. Now, it's not to that same severity, but it's just a sensitivity that happens because it happens along the nerves. So, it can provide, because of this inflammatory process, it can actually cause encephalitis, inflammation in the brain because it travels along the nerves. Um, and it can even stroke in particularly immunocompromised people. So up to 4% of people need to get hospitalized for this because of the pain and the discomfort, because of the weakened immune system and the sequela that can happen to it. So death is rare for shingles, but the long term, or excuse me, there's definitely an increase of risks of heart attack and stroke in that short term period. So the Shingrix vaccine, it decreases the risk by more than 90%. So age 50, that's when you're age eligible for the shingles vaccine. It's a series of two. There we go. It's a 2 dose series, typically 2 months apart. So you get one today, come back 2 months or maybe up to 6 months later. Now, let's say, Alice, I got one. Oh my God, I forgot about it. I haven't gotten the other one. That's okay. Just get the second one. So ideally, we like it closer, but if by chance you took one and, oh, I forgot to get the second one, just go back and get the second one. No need to start all over. Okay. But this is something that is really devastating to people. we've had the chicken pox. And so again, this is a dormant virus that we all have. We all have it. And so we want to prevent its resurgence in the form of shingles. So this is a vaccine for age of 50 and above. Now we're going to get into, oh my goodness, where did the time go? I love talking about this stuff. Okay, pneumonia. So there's more than one kind of pneumonia. One of the misconceptions is that there's a pneumonia vaccine that covers everything. And we do have a pneumococcal vaccine. It doesn't cover everything, but it does cover one of the most lethal uh, bacterial forms of it. So that causes pneumonia. And we want to prevent not only the pneumonia itself, we want to prevent what can happen, especially with as we age and with the weakened immune system, is bloodstream infections, bacteremia, or what some people know as sepsis, and then also prevent meningitis, which is inflammation of um, parts of our brain. So we want to cover that. Pneumonia, this pneumonia vaccine, as a nickname, does not cover all forms of pneumonia, like the viral ones, or fungi. And those can be problematic too, but not as much as this bacterial one. And this is the one that we can largely prevent for that. So um, most commonly, the pneumonia vaccine causes great devastation for the lungs, and it can lead to respiratory failure. We want to prevent this as much as possible, especially if we're older and we have multiple conditions. We want to prevent sepsis. That's that bloodstream infection. Infection starts in our lungs. The bacteria jumps over into our bloodstreams, and now it's circulating and it causes multi-organ failure. We want to prevent that. And then that what I described earlier is that meningitis. That's um, the infection of the lining of our brain and spinal cord. So it can cause potentially brain damage, hearing loss, and even death. So we want to prevent this for sure. Some people do also report that they have ear and sinus infections, but I think this can happen a lot with some of the respiratory conditions. So here, now this might not look like much to y'all, but I'll just say this one here is a regular X-ray. You can see how it's a little more, you can see like the ribs and it's like, you can see the black. It looks kind of clear, but you come over here, it looks like patchiness, like someone, you see all that's kind of, it's very light, like someone took like some cotton, pulled it really thin and laid it over. This is infiltrates. This is what happens when we get pneumonia, the streptococcal pneumonia in our lungs. And so I don't know if you can tell much different. It might not look like much difference to you, but for me as a provider, I'm seeing all this gray, this patchiness, this haziness. That haziness is going to impact your ability to breathe. That's representative of damage that's happening into the lungs. And we want to prevent that. So 50 is a new milestone for it. Again, two vaccine series. So and there are different types of uh, pneumococcal vaccines. So just ask the doctor if maybe you've had one before, because the recommendations have changed. Like in the past, it used to be just get one. So let your provider know if you've had one, or if you don't know, they can check California keeps a database of vaccines. Hopefully, we can find it, or maybe contact your doctor. But just ask, am I up to date on my pneumococcal vaccines? Okay. So that's something that you'll want to talk to your doctor about. RSV, that is not just a baby illness. You guys may have heard, we hear a lot about this when it comes to infants and children. Um, but this is actually a very serious illness that can happen in adults as well. So the current recommendations for RSV when it comes to vaccines is age 75 and above, or adults 50 to 74 who are at increased risk for RSV. So maybe those who are like, remember the slide that had chemo drugs, steroids, HIV, previous cancer, chronic illnesses, all of those put you at increased risk for severe RSV. So you might say, oh, well, it's only 75. I don't qualify here. Well, there's some other risk factors. Remember, there was obesity, chronic other medical conditions like the diabetes, the hypertension. So you actually might very well fall into this category. Talk to your healthcare provider about what your actual risk factors are. Um, but this is very important to helping to prevent this respiratory illness. And it's a one-time dose. So it's not annual. This is a one-time thing. So maybe you've already gotten it and don't recall it. But go through your immunization records, see if you've had this before. If you've not had it and you kind of either age qualify with some of these conditions, then talk to your healthcare provider about getting it. That is something that can be helpful. Um, here are This is again also spread through droplets in the air, contaminated surfaces. That's why coughing or sneezing in your shoulder, in your elbow is better because if we sneeze this way and you don't do a good job with washing your hands, you touch the community doorknob or the restroom bowl, and there we go, right? It's That's how it spreads. But it can cause a variety of lung conditions, bronchiolitis, pneumonia, respiratory failure. It can worsen if you have asthma, COPD, or even heart failure. It can cause, remember, whenever there's lung issues, potential for heart strain as well. It's actually more common than what we know. We just don't talk about it as much because it's kind of something that's going in the background. But in full transparency, if we had all the time to talk to you in the world, we're going to say, you know what, whenever you get a respiratory illness and you're coughing, you're congested, you're all those things, there is a little bit of heart strain temporarily, but there is some additional heart strain. So if you have pre-existing heart condition, you already have your chronic matter. Now you add a little bit of more acuity to that. That's something we want to prevent. And RSV does result in some annual deaths. We want to try to minimize that as much as possible. Now, this slide is just kind of a know before you go, right? I have the top five vaccines here. What are some main contraindications? Well, if you have any allergies to any of the components of the vaccine, and how would you know? So it's very important to talk about what your allergies and sensitivities are with your provider and with the pharmacist before you get them. Um, there, there's not a whole bunch of things that um, for contraindications, so it's a very short list of what those things are, and then when to possibly defer it. Right? Whenever you get any type of vaccine, it's important that you get it at your when you're feeling well. If you're currently sick, under the weather, maybe you were just traveling and you just came back, you're super jet lagged. Wait a day or two. Wait till you're kind of your regular normal self, because your immune system's already down dealing with what's going on. We want to make sure that it's going to have its best chance to create all those great antibodies and memory cells. And so, Nancy, the new COVID vaccine is not quite yet available. We are waiting for it any day now. It's supposed to be available to us in September, which is next week. So this is one of those times where, call your CVS, your Walgreens, and ask when will they have it. Generally, they will get it before the doctor's offices will. So, and they may be able to project the time that they're getting it. And sometimes, if they can project that, they may go ahead and set up some appointments for that. But the new COVID vaccines won't be available till September. Can you get more than one vaccine at a time? Yep, you can. Now, I know people say, well, no, we want to space them out. We don't know what the interaction is. We've not, all of these things. And so, but based on what the vaccines are intended to do and how they work on the immune system, is there any contraindications? Is it harmful to get them all at one time? No, it's not harmful. Could you feel maybe a little more tired? Possibly. I do believe. Possibly you might. The immune system's going to be working hard to identify the intruder, develop these antibodies, these memory cells, and kind of get things teed up. But the reason why we encourage people to get more vaccine get the vaccines at one time. One, there's no evidence that suggests that it's harmful to get all of these vaccines at one time. If anything, you might feel a little bit more tired. Maybe your arm might be a little more sore, but that's a very small price to pay considering the illness and considering that it's more difficult for people to get to and from, to and from, to and from, because life is lifing. Something's going to happen. Something's going to weigh. And there might, delay or prevent you from getting the other vaccine, which you intended to do, but because you spaced them out, it's almost better to get a kind of a one and done. Oh, I feel a little bit more tired, I'm a little sore, but hey, I got them all at once. I don't have to worry about coming back and forth, and I'm set type of thing. So, you can weigh it yourself. Is there anything wrong with getting them one by one? No. It's probably more of an inconvenience to you, if anything, but there's no evidence that suggests that it's dangerous or harmful to get all of them at one time. So that's that. And then myth. Okay, let's ask a couple questions. The flu vaccine can give you the flu. True or false? What do we put in the chat box? Or yes or no, I should say. Yes or no? False. Correct. That is a myth. It does not contain live viruses and cannot cause the flu. Okay, next one. I already had shingles, so I think it's this one. I already had shingles, so I don't need the vaccine. Is that true? Oh, maybe I didn't address that. Myth. shingles is still recommended even if you've previously had shingles, because there are times where people can get reoccurrence of shingles. So even if you've had the shingles before, still get the shingles vaccine. It's a two-dose series. Oh, oh, I just jumped ahead. RSV affects only babies. False. We know that elder adults can get it as well. If I'm healthy, vaccines aren't important as I get older. Myth. Even healthy adults face increased risk from certain infections as we age. And getting vaccinated means I definitely won't get the infection. Is that true or false? No. Myth. Vaccines reduce the severity of illness and complications. Ideally, yes, it can prevent getting the illness, but not 100%. In those cases, we're aiming for reducing the risk of severity and complications. All right. Now this one, when should I not get vaccinated? I covered that on the other slide, but when you should not get vaccinated, if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the components in there, have certain immune system conditions. And the reason why I say this is some conditions and medications suppress the immune system may affect the timing and choice of your vaccine. So if you have some impaired immune system, for example, you've just had completed treatment for your breast cancer or whatever the case is, check with your doctor because there might be some more details for your plan as to, okay, well, let's wait this long and let's get this type of vaccine. So there are some idiosyncrasies there, but they're very individualized. Again, if you are currently sick, want to wait till you're at least kind of in your most regular state to get it. And then if you've had any type of unusual response to the vaccine, it's worth discussing. So we want to rule out that if it's a reaction to the medication or if there might vaccine or if there might have been something else going on. But if any questionable things, talk to the provider before getting it because we want to make sure that we deliver medication safely to you. And if you any potential for any interaction from before, we'd like to know. And then so kind of as we wrap things up here, here's your 5-minute vaccine checkup. Um, Things that you want to do at your next visit, ask these 5 questions. What vaccine am I due for? So if you have your vaccine card, I don't know, mine looks like treasure map paper. It's so it's so old. It's so old. But any records you have of your vaccine, if it's in your portal, talk to your doctor to see what vaccines am I due for? Am I up to date? Right? Have recommendations changed for my age because there might be some new changes and recommendations. And so maybe what was true before might have changed. So let's make sure that you're still up to date. Does my health history change what I need? So let's say you're newly diagnosed with a certain medical condition. So before you were fine, fine, but then maybe your diabetes became very much more complicated and you've had some other things happen and more frequent illness. The doctor may say, you know what, since you're at higher risk, we want to do this. So make sure you have those conversations. Am I missing any doses from a vaccine series? So before, remember, let's say you had one pneumococcal vaccine, and a long time ago it was just supposed to be one. Now, oh, now it's two. So okay, what's the one I should get next? Because there are different types. So seeing if anything's changed, and then also where can I find my vaccination records? Treasure hunt. So ideally, now the state actually captures if your doctor reports it to the repository. Hopefully, it's collected there. If not, you're gonna have to track down your doctor's offices. But always, always try to keep a record of your immunization in your safekeeping because if health record systems go down, one company buys another company. We would hope the integrity of our medical record stays there, but we can't control someone else's computer system. So as much as possible, keep a checklist, but you should be able to get it from the pharmacy where you went, like if CVS 5 years ago, they should be able to track that down. Even if you were out of state, you should be able to track it down. So there might be some treasure hunting that you need to do, but listen, it's worth it. Do it one good time, get it all on sync and make sure everybody around you and your family like, okay, we got your immunization record. So if the lights went out, we were dark for 2 weeks, you got your immunization records with you. And then stay well, stay moving. Movement is medicine. Eating a healthy balance to keep your immune system optimal to support your defenses. Sleep. Let me tell you, let me say it for the people in the back. Sleep. When we do not get enough sleep, our body gets stressed. There's a release of cortisol and other stress hormones. So, not getting enough sleep is enough to dampen your immune system. We want to prevent that. Sleep is important for recovery. Screening, stay on top of your screening. So, if there's any type of medical condition that we can identify early, get treated, stay on top of, all the best. And then vaccinations, those are going to be very important to staying part of our preventative uh, healthcare plan. And remember, vaccines aren't about eliminating every possibility of getting sick because you got to do all these other things. The vaccination is only a part of it, but if we can do all these things, this is going to be ideal for the most optimal wellness, especially as we enter into these winter months where respiratory illnesses is going to be high prevalence. We want to do our part to try to protect us as much as possible. Now, last but not least, now you don't, you're like, Alice, I'm not going to read this, not really. But what I wanted to share is remember the California Department of Public Health has an even more robust vaccine recommendations than the federal government. Here in California, we are part of the West Coast Alliance. There are some other states, Washington, Oregon, and Hawaii. Our states have all collectively agreed that we are going to supersede CDC recommendations and listen and be advised by the recommendations of the American Academy of Family Physicians, also like the children. I don't have them committed to memory because I was focused on the adult folks, but the ACOG, American College of Gynecologists, the American Academy of Pediatrics, our California public health departments are based on what the experts and the scientists who work in this field recommend. So here is, you don't need to look at that in detail, but this is the full schedule of what's recommended. So maybe you can go to this AAFP website, take a look at this, take your shot record and say, hey, doc, am I up to date? So it has all of the recommendations for adulthood, every single one that's available. Do you need it? Do you not? Talk to your doctor because they should be able to explain to you why you should get this or why you shouldn't, based on the guidelines that are based on science, recommended by the experts and the advisory committees in these fields. So, oh, that was a lot. Okay. Question. I'll take a couple of questions if you have them, but just also want to invite you for our presentation next month on prostate health and healthy aging. We do this every month. Every month there's a different topic, and then you can also go back and binge watch some of our other health presentations. But my goal today was to really just kind of share information with you to help point you in the right direction, empower you to have conversations with your provider, and so we can all have live a healthy life. All right.
Thank you so much, Nurse.